Hey, what's going on, everybody? And thanks for joining me again. We got a real special one today. So I finally got moved back into Harrisburg, Pennsylvania to kick off the last and final year of law school. And to start off this very special podcast, I got to thank Ashley Jemison. Thank you for joining me. A very close friend of mine through law school. We're kicking it off back in Harrisburg. Was it easy? Is it easy transitioning back into the law school life for you?
Absolutely not. I'm not. I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready to come back, but here I am, halfway there. Well, more than halfway there. Two more semesters coming back, and I'm
cheers
just ready
to that. On that note,
ready to get this
cheers. Amen. Yo, that's pretty incredible.
Yeah, it's amazing.
There may or may not be Baileys in here. You will never know. But what you do know is that this is pretty darn good. Well, before we go into, the meat, it's going to get real serious. So before we get into that, I guess we could have some fun. So, funny questions to ask list. That's what this is titled.
All right.
Thank you, Internet. So, starting with the first one. These are real pressing questions here on the Rethink Tank. Is cereal soup? Now, you as a lawyer, you're going to know it's going to come down to how you define a soup.
Right, that's true. So define soup.
And I didn't want you thinking about this ahead of time. We're not going to look. Don't you dare go to the internet.
I was about to.
I know.
I was about to do some research.
We need to conjure up a definition for soup and then determine if cereal fits it.
Okay, so technically, it's not soup because I feel like soup's base has to be water.
Now there's some real psychopaths out there that drink cereal with water. I'm gonna give you here for me. If we had to come up with elements for soup, this is the one element that I think kicks cereal out.
Okay.
I think for it to be soup, it needs to be hot.
I don't know.
Is there cold soups?
There are cold soups, I feel
What's a cold soup?
Put the soup in the refrigerator. It's cold. But you're going to warm it up. Unless you're a sociopath. But, you know what? I think that's a good assessment.
I don't think that there's a soup.
There are no cold soups.
But here's the one thing. Isn't there a thing called hot cereal? Isn't that like oatmeal?
Exactly. Cream of wheat.
So now we're pedaling back. But see, that's farther from soup. But
also, I feel like another element of soup is to have like a bunch of stuff in it. Like not one ingredient.
Yeah. See, that's fair. I'm with it. Mm-hmm. Because even if I'm trying to come up with like a noodle soup, there's carrot bits in that shit.
Exactly.
But I'm going to throw back at you. What about Lucky Charms? That's your cereal. That's your or cream of wheat, or oatmeal. What's the?
Yeah, they have
the oats.
People put all types of stuff in their oatmeal.
Plus, there's people that just dice up fruit and add it to their cereal.
True. So does that make it a soup?
Or yeah.
Is it soup?
You have those oat cereals that come with nuts and raisins and all the other fixins. Granola. So does it take multiple ingredients? I think that can't be the distinct, because then you got tomato soup that's got nothing in it. It's just tomato.
That's true. Or a lobster bisque. Well, it has lobster in it, but that's about it.
But what's bisque besides just bisque, right?
Exactly.
You'd have chicken bisque, scallop bisque, lobster bisque, crab bisque. What's just bisque?
I think the main distinction is it's hot.
I think you're right. So the follow-up question then is, can you have cereal that is soup and cereal that is not soup? Because you have cold cereal, but you also have hot cereal. And can that hot cereal be soup? We still couldn't conjure up a definition of soup.
Yeah.
It's these God words that I feel like you can't actually define, right? Like, if somebody was like, give me the definition of a chair, you'd be like, that thing that you put your ass on.
Or like the definition of gender. What's gender in 2019?
I mean, are we talking the 70 plus where you can be a fox, an elf, or a pixie? Because in that case, are we going by the candidate definition or?
I don't know these days. At our school, we now have an all-gender bathroom. So.
You and I, amen for that. I felt unsafe until we had that.
I did too.
Now you feel safer though, right?
I feel amazing. Even though I rarely ever use it.
Yo, I cannot wait. I cannot wait for your reaction for this. So we talked about this mildly, but then I made sure to pump the brakes and wait for us to come back here so we could talk about it. Okay. So I looked at you and I said, hey, did you watch Rocko's Modern Life growing up?
Right.
And you're like, yeah, I watched that. Did you see that there was a new movie on Netflix? I was like, oh, yeah, funny you bring that up. So it was a late night. I did a little, just chilling by myself. And it was a crazy, wild cartoon. Like, you're trying to follow a stream of thought, and you're just like, wow, being cracked out on sugar and ADD as a 5-year-old, like, all of this was a stream of consciousness, and now it's almost impossible. But it was fun. You enjoy it. So it's about Rocco gets lost in space, comes back, and now it's time for him to get acclimated to the new life.
Okay.
And his favorite show is gone. He's trying to get his favorite show back on the air. So, I don't know, there's a character, if you saw him, you'd recognize him. He looks like a frog, but it was like his boss in the cartoon. Okay. So, this character is somehow in charge of, like, the cartoon. And that my son does the drawing of the cartoon, and unless he does the drawing for the cartoon, it won't be done. So, you gotta go get my son to do it. So Rocco goes on this huge, the movie's about him trying to find this guy. Finds him. And that's like halfway through the movie. Finds him. Turns out that the guy is willing to go back and draw the cartoon and then he quickly jumps out of, he was in a ice cream truck, jumped out of the ice cream truck and was like, if my dad can accept me for being a woman. And you're just like... And that's when I cut it off. I was like, well, and that's when you ruined a Nickelodeon cartoon I grew up with.
So, question.
Yeah.
Is this a new episode?
Oh, yeah, it came out in 2019. Can you tell?
Of course it did. I can tell.
It's like
this would have never come out.
Right.
When we were growing up.
I mean, you couldn't avoid the agenda here, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
So then Zach, a kid that we go to...
Wait, hold on. Question. Was this a joke?
No, wait, hold on. So I told you, I cut it off at that point. Okay, I go, I'm done. Right. Nickelodeon, I vote with my viewership. My vote is now revoked. So I have this conversation with Zach, a kid that we go to school with. Zach goes, oh, you should have kept watching because the following hour is just about everybody in society, like his dad, Rocco, people who don't care, people who very much care, all these people trying to get acclimated to his lifestyle. It's like, it literally is the entirety of the movie following it. And I'm just like, I am so glad I turned it off. It's about this tranny cartoonist. Like...
Oh my god.
Yeah.
This can't be the same people who that were responsible for the real Rocco's Modern Life. Jesus, right?
It's like we need to leave our shows dead.
Yeah, for
in the
sure.
Past where they were.
And that's another thing. I just feel like they're remaking everything. And for what? For what?
So, I haven't had a chance to see it yet, which is bad on my part. But I haven't yet seen Lion King or Aladdin.
Okay.
Those two I'm dying to see. But I did see Toy Story.
Okay. How was that?
Now, the funny thing about all of this, just living in a world where you can't avoid the trailers, it's like, can you tell that they're just spoon-feeding you your childhood back? Like, this is how we're going to make money now. Like, there's something going on in the psyche of the American public where we crave being a kid again more than the new thing. So now they're just making the new thing you being a kid again.
But who wouldn't?
That's true.
It kind of sucks to live in this day's era where we're tiptoeing around issues. We're not really talking about how we feel because we're afraid to offend someone.
That's true too.
And
hold on. I just realized. So this laptop, you should know more than anybody as someone who would sit next to me. Here's a reason why we can't use this laptop. If you need me to Google search anything, just tell me and I'm going to look it up. Because this thing sounds like a Harrier jet.
Oh, it does?
I just heard it about... it's about to take off, and I'm like, we're going to shut this shit down before it goes.
I did hear it.
Okay, so where do we establish cereal needs to be, or a soup needs to be hot?
Yeah, and it needs to have multiple ingredients.
Multiple ingredients of a... Damn. Okay, now that we've come up with our answer, let's find the definition of a soup.
All right, cool.
Like, how would you define soup? A liquid dish typically made by boiling meat, fish, or vegetables in stock or water.
Right.
So it's just saying typically in stock or water. Mm-hmm. Yo, taking this definition, I got a real good argument for why cereal is a soup. Where does the stock or water get its flavor? From boiling the meat, the fish, or the vegetables. The milk gets its flavor from the sugar of the cereal. So you're making the milk change its flavor and becoming like the stock of a soup. It's
and
a liquid dish.
Typically, it doesn't say
always. Bingo. We lawyered the fuck out of that. Soup is a cereal.
Did.
Period. All right. Moving on to a more fun one. What are the unwritten rules of where you work? So are there unwritten rules for school, and were there unwritten rules for your summer experience you just had working with a law firm?
Unwritten rules for school.
Unwritten rules for school are don't text during class using your laptop. It's written, but you ignore it, so consider it an unwritten.
Don't shop. Don't do anything other than use your laptop for taking notes.
Amen.
That is an unwritten rule.
Unwritten. They want to say it's written. It's unwritten.
Yeah. It probably is in this handbook, like 2019.
They made sure to add that shit.
Yeah.
That was a poor one.
For ours, yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm with
class?
you, though. For our class, it's like, yeah. Anyway, you said you had an answer ready for this one. Mm-hmm. What part of a kid's movie completely scarred you?
Lion King.
Yup.
Lion King, when Scar killed Mufasa.
You took mine, damn it.
Are you serious?
Literally, when Scar kills Mufasa.
Like, what else would... I don't know any person that wasn't scarred by that. I was friggin' 4 or 5 years old, and this is this guy's brother, and he kills him, and like nobody knows until like years later.
Exactly.
It's insane.
And you can't help but put yourself in the position of the characters, right? You put yourself in those positions. That's the whole point of it, I think. Right. And you're picturing your uncle killing your dad, and just this whole thing is crazy.
All because he's jealous.
Right.
And because he wants his spot. And that, I think, has a really realistic message. Like, even for a kid's movie, right? Mm-hmm. Because it's real talk.
You're right.
You know what I mean? Like, that's definitely a lesson that people need to understand, like, is that at any point in time you could be hated on, be the subject of jealousy. But yeah, that definitely did scar me for life.
Well, so I'm going to say that I think the most scarring scene is that scene. Mm-hmm. I think the most impressionable scene, because it wasn't scarring, but the most impressionable scene is the scene when Simba sees his dad later, like, in the stars. Yeah. That always gave me chills. I was just like, it always made you want to, like, cry. You're just like, ah. Yeah. Did they do that scene justice? Like I said, I haven't seen it yet. Did they do it justice?
No. They didn't do... And you would think, like, that with the CGI or live action, as they're calling it. It's barely live action, but you would think, like, that they would do a lot of these scenes justice. Honestly, the original still reigns.
Oh, I don't doubt that.
Yeah.
But that comes back to our nostalgia factor, right?
Yeah.
Of like...
It's like you can't do these things over. Yeah, for the new generation, they're going to appreciate it.
That's a very good
something
point.
New to them.
They've got us thinking they're making it for us.
Exactly, and they're not.
No, what it is for you to take your kid to it.
Period.
Now, I'm going to get you comfortable so you take your kid to our movie.
But the whole time, like, I'm, like, matching it up. Like, this isn't the same. This isn't... You know what I mean? Like, they didn't have, like, key stuff in the movie.
I think that's the advertising flaw they stepped into was advertising that they brought alive the cartoon. That, like, this is a different movie.
Exactly.
Embrace the fact that it's a different movie.
Exactly.
Right? Like, don't say...
Different characters, different voices. The music was good. The music was good. I could have done without Beyonce.
Oh!
Voiceover. Her music... She's a singer, so that makes sense. But her voiceover, I mean, you could hear, like, the non-acting through, like, her voiceover. It was... That's
so disappointing.
It was insane.
But it also goes to show, like, you know, there's a lot of people out there. I think the perfect one that comes to mind is, like, Seth Macfarlane, right? He's a Broadway guy who's a comedian. So, like, he can literally do a Broadway show.
He was really good.
He can act in movies. Yeah. And he can do comedy and voiceover comedy. But, like, there's not a lot of people like him. He's a Bo Jackson type. You know? Like, to think that isn't a skill, right? Like, we want to believe once you're in Hollywood, you could do it all. You can... No.
And you can't.
Yeah.
You can't.
Wow, that's interesting. I thought Beyonce would have been... a universal out of the park.
Horrible.
But, wow.
Yeah, but like I said, the music, phenomenal.
But even just the way you describe it, I can hear it. I can hear you could imagine the tones you would use to make it seem
it's just like really monotone, like, you know, like no acting, like, at all. Like, it seemed like forced. And I get it. Like, you know, the shock value, people love Beyonce. We're in 2019. You want to have her, like, in the movie, but it's like, I could have done with her just being on the soundtrack. and we would have been
what's
cool
funny
with that.
is I bet Childish Gambino, what's his name? Daniel Glover. I bet you playing Simba, he did the acting, the singing. He's a Bo Jackson type.
Exactly, because that's his trade. I feel like he's like a jack of all trades. Beyonce is not an actor.
My buddy said his favorite performance at Lollapalooza this summer was Daniel Glover.
Damn, I can see that.
Oh, I bet
he's a talented guy.
But man, that's interesting. You know they picked Beyonce strictly because she's got a cult following.
That's the only reason.
The name, but
that's a topic for a whole other podcast.
Yeah, heck yeah. Okay, so This is. I've already got my answer right off the cuff. I read this, knew the answer immediately. If animals could talk, which would be the rudest?
Cats.
Boom! 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 It's just like right off the. Who is it? Cats.
Yeah.
Like you just know it's
arrogant.
A cat. Who's an asshole?
Yeah.
Like,
Cats,
bitch, you can pet me now.
Right.
No, not now.
When you want to.
Not now. Now.
Right now.
And I bet you the amount of people listening to this are like, all right, if I gotta pick one, I'm gonna pick a cat. We should make a poll, and I bet you it's way more universal than you think.
For sure.
Here's a better question. Who would be the nicest animal? Right? Initially, you want to pick something funny, like something with a silly name, like a platypus.
Right.
Like, but I think an elephant.
What?
I mean, they're jerks at heart, but they're just. But like when you see them kill something, it's out of defense. If you see them
I don't see that often.
Right?
It's not like they're predators.
And they're the smartest animal alive. They have the sharpest memory of any animal.
I didn't even think of it. I'm thinking like automatically I'm thinking domesticated animals.
That's fair.
Like I'm thinking like a dog. But that's not creative.
But that's that's a damn good,
right?
How funny is that though? We always want to, we project onto life this kind of good versus evil.
Right.
And we have man's best friend, and then somehow this asshole pet that we can't get fucking rid of. It's just everywhere.
Facts. But you don't see, one thing you don't see are stray dogs much.
Oh, you're going to take it to stray cats now, huh?
I have to.
Wait, actually, I'm disappointed you took it here. You're going to finish your comment.
Yeah.
But wait until you see where this is about to go. I was going to take the podcast here anyway, but I don't think you're ready for this. So, what's your comment about stray cats? That you see them fucking everywhere?
You see them everywhere. They're a pest. Everybody knows this. Like, everybody has this friggin' cat lady in their neighborhood who just keeps feeding the cats, and they're going to keep coming, and nobody wants them there.
I didn't script you to say any of that, right?
Oh, absolutely not. There's no... there's no script. The computer is off.
Yeah, the Harriet jet has been shut down. You ready for this one?
Yeah.
So you want to hear the big skeptical of my externship experience?
Yeah.
Externship.
You were right the first time.
Hairball on my throat. The externship experience.
Yeah.
So I was an extern for the judge of the Garfield Heights Municipal Court.
Okay.
There was this huge explosion. Here's the case. The headlines that made national and international news was magistrate sentences 79-year-old woman to 10 days in county prison for feeding cats. What happened? Now just the facts of the story. Magistrate had this lady in front of him for the 5th time. She looked at him. The violation is feeding stray cats. The neighbors have been reporting her for years. They have found numerous dead cats recently within the past few days.
Okay.
And the final straw was this lady going to sit on her back patio, and there being a dead cat just sitting on her patio, and all the cat shit everywhere and cat paws all over their cars. So it was reported. She's in front of the magistrate, and she looked at the magistrate and said, I want you to know that I am never going to stop doing this. So, as a result of it being the 5th time, he sentenced her to 10 days in county. 10 days. That's a lot, but it isn't. That's like pennies.
And she's 79, so she doesn't have
But she's 79, so she's old as shit, right?
Yeah.
So that makes her more fragile. Anyway.
Wait, hold on. This is her 5th time before the judge.
Yes.
Okay.
In front of this magistrate.
Okay.
She's had way more than 5 times for this infraction in other jurisdictions.
Okay.
She's
but
a problem when it comes to
right.
these feeding cats.
Okay.
But here's the kicker that was left out of all of the news articles. She was also in front of him because of a probation violation. Like, the feeding of the cats, this being the final straw, was also a violation of probation because she's been on probation for how many years for feeding all of these cats?
So
for as long as she did.
And she tells the magistrate that she's never going
to stop. So she gets 10 days while she's on probation. The attorney, now mind you, the day that I checked everybody into court and everything, the attorney, this 1,000-year-old dinosaur, didn't even know where he was. Like, he was lost beyond belief. He's just looking around and you're like, hey, sir, you're about to advocate on someone's behalf.
Right.
Totally lost. Well, he makes a comment to her on the way out to vividly remember him just well, the circus is about to begin. This is what we were hoping for. It's like, the dude knew he was so at his job that this was the plan B that we were already planning on. Wow. So it goes and makes national news. It was on CNN, Fox, ABC. From the day of that trial where it hit the news up until her new trial, I'll get to that in a second, we had people across the country calling nonstop, bitching about this. Can I serve the person's sentence for them? Or can I serve the lady's sentence for her, please? No, sir, you can't. And people, I'm going to write in letters, yeah, do it. When it came time to actually have these people do something, they never did any of it. But they were calling. We had people from Germany calling. My dad's like, These people, it's like, hey, stop worrying about what we're doing with cats. We're going to worry about what you did with people in ovens, all right? Save your opinions for yourself. Right. Germany, of all people, have something to say about our cat problem.
Right.
And it's not like these cats were being put down, right? So, long story short, we had this huge circus explosion. And as a result, the judge reopened the case. Even though she signed the judgment entry on the case itself. She reopened the case. And, of course, throughout the period between her getting sentenced and this new trial, it being on the news, she's telling the news, I'll stop in a heartbeat. I'll never do this again. Like totally different than what she was saying to the magistrate.
For sure.
So that was those were the terms of the agreement that we won't send you to county for 10 days, but you cannot feed another cat. If you feed another cat, you're going to jail.
Right.
So hopefully that scares her. Who knows? But it's like, it's so funny you were talking about feeding stray cats, and it's just like, this is a problem everywhere.
Oh yeah, it's an issue.
And so you ask, why is that the problem with cats and not dogs? My dad pointed it out to me. He goes, but think about it. We've got a legitimate program where we collect stray dogs and then kill them. Like, we literally have a system where we collect them all and kill them if they're not picked up in 3 days. That's why everybody's like, go out and rescue a dog.
Right.
Because we're killing dogs,
right.
but we're letting cats who, we looked it up, can have up to 10,000 kittens annually. One feral cat can have up to 10,000 kittens 1 year. What? And if these cats are living for just 5 years around this bitch's home, now you've got 50,000 cats that are having 10,000 cats a year in this neighborhood. It's like, I'm 100% in the cause. All these people, what about the cats? All the people cared about were the cats.
Yeah.
And it's like, yo, let's think about these people.
It's
the
too much.
Neighbors that call, everybody was calling for the magistrate's life.
Yeah.
I want him dead. It's like, but it wasn't him. It was the neighbors. The neighbors were upset.
Yeah.
He's just enforcing the law.
Mm-hmm.
But man, they're people and their animals specifically. But
yeah,
but
it can get insane.
Oh yeah. Oh, 100%.
Especially with cats. I don't get it.
Yeah. So anyway, darn those cats.
To say the least.
Dude, that's the other thing I was going to say. So, when I was in Dubai, we went to this expat facility, which is where all the expatriates are at. These guys are from India, Saudi Arabia. Their family, they left in the middle of bomb fire, and their family's still at home, and we make $200 a month, and we're sending half of it home, so they don't have enough to live for the month.
Right.
But, it's like they're getting paid pennies an hour. It's insane. And the living facilities were just heartbreaking.
Okay.
And while I'm just being blown away by this social experience I would never have even conjured, on my own. All the girls in my group were so bent out of shape over the starving stray cats. And I'm like, do you not see what else is around you? People
You know what that reminds me of?
What's that?
People's total disregard for human life when it comes to illegal immigration, for instance, or how citizens are treated by cops. Because it's a reality in the inner city that, the history is that people haven't been treated well by police officers, specifically in the inner city.
Yeah.
Specifically people of color.
Yep.
And there's a whole demographic of people who don't think that this is a pressing issue. But I don't know if you remember, I'm pretty sure you do, the Michael Vick situation.
Yeah, what about it?
The dogs.
Right.
People were up in arms about that. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't, but I just feel like you should match that energy.
When we just found a guy with a pedophile island, what were we more upset about? Pedophile island or the dog ring?
Right.
What had bigger headlines?
It's just our priorities sometimes are out of whack. And I don't know, to say the least.
No, you're right. But I want to your point, have you seen... I want to say it's When They See Us. Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure that's what it's called.
Yeah, I did see that.
You did?
Yep.
So I watched the first episode.
Okay.
And I watched it with my mom and my dad, and it was towards the end of my summer break, so I'm going to have to watch it on my own terms now because I know they're going to watch it without me. Mm-hmm. That being said, it's going to be real hard to get myself to watch it on my own terms by myself.
Right.
Because that is so upsetting and just so heartbreaking. I mean, it's happening to everybody. Black kids, white kids, but it's happening to black kids at such a grander scale. Yes, 100%. And just that story alone, the first episode, if it doesn't make you want to keel over and puke, I mean, it's just
it's
so hard. And you're about to be a player in that.
It's a nightmare. And that's what I noticed, like, this summer is that, like, doing a certified internship where you get to be in the courtroom and actually, like, represent clients on the defense side. A lot of these defense attorneys, a lot of these lawyers, period, prosecutors, defense attorneys, judges, they're jaded.
Yeah.
They don't care. I don't know how, like, I don't know if they entered the criminal justice system that way. Probably not. Like, they probably were, like, really eager to, like, help people. And all I know is that people's feelings and their beliefs and their preconceptions and stuff shouldn't be getting in the way of justice. And that's what I see happening daily. It's like poor people are getting screwed. You know, nobody cares about it. Everybody's getting paid from it. The Bureau of Prisons, private prisons are getting paid. Probation, like, people are getting put into probation, which is like supervision to the T. And it's not like they're going to, you know, more than likely they're going to violate probation. You get what I'm saying?
Oh, 100. It's made for them.
Yeah,
you know? Like,
it's
tailored for them.
Exactly.
To
because
violate.
literally everything is a violation. So It's like...
Yeah, living your freedoms, like just driving or drinking or, you know, like being a free citizen, you violate it, right? Because that's how they restrict you. But the one thing I was going to say is I agree with your whole entire testament, but I think... One, it's clear to say this is a systemic thing.
Yeah,
like this is systematically being done, where it's being recreated and recycled amongst itself. That being said, for it to be cyclic like it is or systematic, I think the system, the gears, the Illuminati, whoever's in charge of this systemic oppression, I think they want us to lean on it being more of a human flaw, of it being like, these people are racist, these people are hateful, it's the hate in these humans' hearts. That way, that conversation distracts us from the things that are legitimately systematically putting people there, right? Like, just as much as those kids in the Central Park Five were victim to racism, they were even more a victim to a political agenda of, we don't give a who it was. We are getting someone today. What's the easiest route to get somebody to propel my career?
I think that's a really good point. It's like everybody had a stake in these kids being nailed at the end of the day. Like Linda Fairstein, who was the lead prosecutor. It's like... You know that there are discrepancies in that first episode. Story. Like, you know that this doesn't seem... You know.
Where the prosecutor smoking her cigarette.
You mean to tell me you go through 3 years of law school, you take the bar, however much studying in preparation that took you, and then you're in this... You're a prosecutor, which takes a lot of effort. I mean, their caseload alone, 350 cases per attorney. You get what I'm saying? So, like, they're not... To say the least, they're swamped. And you mean to tell me you go through all of that and you can't see that these kids literally don't even know what happened that night that the woman was raped? And you're telling me that you keep going forward? And then prosecutors have the nerve to say, which I think, you know, this is their goal, and that's what the goal should be, is to do justice. But sometimes that goal gets lost on us because you have to propel your career, like you were saying. There's politics involved. Some people are running for DA. Some people have ambitions to run for judge. Like, all of these things fall into place, and then suddenly whatever lives you affect in the meantime don't matter as much. And I think that is the main player. So I think what you're saying definitely makes sense in that, like, yeah, that was the main thing that we should be paying attention to, is that, yeah, there are systemic issues, but there's politics, like, in the midst of all of that's playing a huge role as to why people are getting screwed.
No, I think you nailed it. And before the podcast when we were talking, I think you said it. You said it perfectly. Absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Yeah.
That is a cliche for a reason. It's overused for a reason. And so in that first episode where the prosecutor, she's smoking her cigarette and they're like, all right, these are the facts. Like they have all these incidents throughout Central Park and they're like, how do we get from them beating this guy up to this guy to the final end of raping this girl? Like,
it's just like,
and it was
none of the stories match up.
And she'd be like, no, it doesn't work. Go,
right.
He's got to be here at 2:50. And then she'd walk out and the pawns in the game would go and manipulate it.
And then the issue, a huge issue that I have is like, well, now that we know for a fact that these 5 kids did not rape that woman, they get a settlement, which I don't think was, you know what I mean? I don't think it justifies anything. I don't think it was enough for any of them. But that's a whole other issue. What happens to the prosecutors? Like, what happens to the police officers?
No accountability.
Absolutely.
We just march forward.
Nothing. Like nothing happens. Linda Fairstein she's still a best-selling author. Like you don't get any. There's no like.
The pushback to that, however, I'm going to say, as somebody who's going to be a lawyer, that is the safety you need to have for you to be able to do your job, right? Like the philosophy behind this system is we have 2 advocates that are going to zealously advocate on your behalf to the best of their ability. And for us to get the right choice, to get what's just, the theory is that the better man wins. The good dissolves to the top, prevails.
Yeah.
And it'll always prevail. That's the theory, right? So when the prosecutor is going, I just did the best of my ability, and I just happen to do better than that person, like, why aren't they getting in trouble for not doing good enough? I was just doing my job of advocating as best as I could. They didn't do it. And when we watch that show, what do we see? That they got screwed by their own attorney just as much as they got screwed.
Yeah, I agree.
And so I think systemically we can't have it where, we found out after the fact, now let's go back and get the prosecutor. It's one of those like, well, no, that's why we have an appeal. That's why we can do 4 appeals and then go, it was a scratch. Everybody just go their separate ways.
But then lives hang in the balance.
Well, that's the worst part about it.
Like,
100%.
Imagine if Donald Trump would have been successful in securing the death penalty for those 5 kids. Because he put out an ad, like spent like almost $100,000 on an ad in New York, talking about nailing these kids as far as the death penalty goes.
That's insanity.
It's crazy.
But hold on, can we also admit that these kids did get the death penalty?
Exactly.
They did, right? Like they just spent 30 years in jail or whatever it was,
right?
And they were given the death penalty,
right?
They lost their lives.
For the rest of their lives, and there's still people who think, regardless of the overwhelming evidence to the contrary, that they did it. There are still people who think that.
I don't know how you could. You watch that first episode.
Do you know the end of it?
Well, I know that they get released.
Right, but do you know why?
Exonerating evidence? What was it? No.
The person who actually did it came forward. Yeah. With DNA evidence. So if there's a documentary that I think everybody should watch before they actually watch the series, it's about the Central Park 5, only the Central Park 5, and it's really good. It came out like a few years ago.
Oh, I'm going to have to check that out.
Yeah, it's on YouTube, free. Yeah, check that out. But the guy came forward. They had DNA evidence that didn't match any of the 5.
Huh.
Any of the 5.
But that comes back to you just knowing the rules of civil procedure. A prosecutor doesn't have to put on exonerating evidence. Yeah. They just have to they get to pick and choose their evidence.
That's true.
And again, that's I'm not going to criminalize somebody for the way the system works because I understand the theory. Listen, this summer, my whole thing to all the people that I worked with, my life existence will be dedicated to social justice reform.
Yeah.
Our system is so jacked up. It's ruined. And so I'll be the first to argue its pitfalls. However, I'm also a very theoretical, philosophical person. And so for us, you can't throw out the skeleton. So just knowing that the backbone is this theory of we need to promote the best advocate argument on both sides, and that's how we simmer to the top, the best prevails, justice prevails.
Yeah.
For that theory to exist, we can't go, oh, well, you did too good of a job advocating your side, because even when you know you're wrong, you're supposed to put on the best evidence. But I don't know. The whole thing's disgusting. It always reminds me of we would have these same conversations with Kavanaugh. Now it's flipped, right?
Yeah.
Before it was, you can't damn Kavanaugh for this exact reason of we have people today or 20 years ago going, that black man raped me. I know it was him. I know it. And as a result, 12 of their peers go, yeah, I'm taking her word for it. She's going to know best than anybody. Oh, and then it turns out 30, 20 years later, it was a different black man because these people were racist or, you know, they just cling to the first. We listened to Dean tell us for how long how they can manipulate witness testimonies of like, that's the guy. Are you sure that's the guy? Like,
and
here's a bunch of pictures.
Testimony is not reliable.
But it's the most reliable. How crazy is that?
And it turns out that in the Central Park 5 case, it turns out to be one Hispanic male who was a chronic rapist or a serial rapist. He had been convicted prior to that, and he ends up seeing one of the Central Park 5 in prison, and he just felt so compelled to like confess. Like that, yeah, I did this.
Now, that being the case, now roll with me here.
Yeah.
Is there another possibility that these kids didn't do it,
right?
But neither did this guy. And this guy's like, I'm in here for life. I've already got 3 or 4. Just let me take the fall and you and your boys get out.
If they didn't have DNA evidence, I would say
Oh, that's true. I forgot about that aspect of it.
If they didn't have DNA evidence, then I'd say, yeah. But,
if we didn't have the most compelling thing we could have.
Exactly. Then it would be different. But we got that, thank God.
Yeah, that I am looking for. As much as I'm not looking forward to it, I am looking forward to finishing that one. Oh yeah. So let's get to the best last one. How many chickens would it take to kill an elephant?
I think maybe 2,000.
Here's the question: is how do you interpret that question? Is it supposed to be like how many chickens thrown at an elephant? How many chickens pecking at an elephant? How many chickens were consumed by an elephant before it overconsumes and dies? I have a hard time interpreting that one. I think it's just how many in a war, elephant v. chicken. Yeah. How many chickens does it take for the chicken to prevail? Right. And I think it's a lot.
Yeah, I think.
But I have followed Nature is Raw, which is an Instagram thing. Okay. And it shows like pelicans and stuff just destroying real animals, like rabbits and pigs.
But nothing as big as an elephant.
Nothing as big as an elephant, but they've got some capabilities. Okay. So I don't know. I feel like
about how many
chickens pecking at a head,
right,
and an elephant head,
right,
does it take?
Just the head. Like pecking at their eyes? Because you just said earlier
I'm with
they're
you.
like the nicest animal.
I'm thinking like...
I don't really see them
100 can't be enough.
I see them being like annoyed. I don't really see an elephant like teeing off on chickens. Like, they don't even know where their trunk is. Like, I don't...
Here. Think about it. I'm going to need to go to the bathroom.
Okay.
Sorry about that, gang. I definitely needed to make a run. But I'm with you. I feel like when it comes to an elephant, one like turn of their head has to clear out like
at least like 10.
Like
maybe even more.
25.
Yeah.
Like if we're going like the length of my arm and just went okay, maybe 10.
Right.
Because if you think about just like 4 chickens deep.
Right.
Man. But if this is 4 chickens deep and I'm taking 10 out with one arm swoop, like 100 chickens is a hell of a lot of chickens.
It's not going to be enough. I just don't think. Just the head, you mean?
I have no idea.
Body? I just
everything.
Feel like
they're going at everything.
Yeah, I think it's going to take a frig ton. I don't want to curse, but a lot of chickens to take down. And I mean, come on, like they're huge.
You're right. They're
huge.
And I don't even think like people could take down elephants. Like how many?
Oh, I know for a fact that like if me and I have a huge family and like
how many people could take down a woolly mammoth?
Oh, I don't.
And people had spears. They didn't have chicken beaks.
And then it comes down to how strong chicken beaks are. We don't know that. I don't know that.
Yeah, I know. I mean, they're definitely not a diamond.
Right.
But they're also not rubber.
Right. So, a lot of questions.
I'm going to go with a lot of chickens.
Questions. A lot of chickens. I'm sticking with 2,000.
Yeah, well, we've spent a lot of time on meaningless questions that don't mean anything. Yep. And now it's time to get to the pressing question.
The nitty-gritty.
The real question that matters.
The facts.
All right. So here's the question for you, Ashley.
Yep.
Did Jeffrey Epstein suicide himself, or did he get suicided?
Normally, I'd say, conspiracies, not my thing. But with this and all that was at stake, I think Jeffrey Epstein was definitely suicided. I mean, there's a chance, that he committed suicide. There's a chance that he offed himself, but I just feel like, again, there was too much at stake. I mean, there's a whole bunch of people who are going to be implicated in this. That's fact, right? And, I guess the powers that be wouldn't have it that this guy would be able to implicate them in the court of law. That would be a shit show, to say the least. Seriously.
And so, breaking down what happened. So these documents that were going to implicate some very powerful people came out the Friday before he dies, and the next day, so they get subpoenaed, they're going to be brought into court, they're going to have to testify.
Right.
The next day, he's found dead in his cell, right?
And I don't believe in coincidences.
And it was confirmed that 4chan had it 38 minutes before his death that he died by asphyxiation. 4chan released that he died 38 minutes before he was actually dead.
There's a website I haven't heard of in like 5 years.
Right?
What? I mean, I don't doubt it. I'm sorry. Like,
all of the default protections that were in place for somebody on suicide watch were turned off. That they were put on him and they were turned off a few days before they move him into his cell by himself. Then they take him off suicide watch. The camera over the cell malfunctions. That's according to ABC and NBC. And they tell all the guards that normally take a 30-minute go-around by his cell. Some of them were told to take the day off. Some of them were told to go home early. And some of them were told to change it from every half hour to every hour. But so the takeaway from that is all of the guards were told to do something different than their normal. Yes. CBS News says that a guy that normally works at the jail, or that normally does not work at the jail, was allowed in without any questions and was roaming around the place without any checks or balances. He was just roaming. And that it also reports... So that same CBS article also reported that there was hearings of banging and screaming and him basically begging for his life from audio taken from that time period. It's only the video that we don't have. So who's fucking dangling from the ceiling going, help, help, like, somebody come help me, like, begging for their life.
What are the odds?
And then, and also if he's put on suicide watch, I was reading, I didn't realize their bed sheets are like a type of paper.
Right.
So that it like rips.
Right.
And then you hear vividly on the recording, breathe, everything will be okay, just breathe. So I take from that what you will. Like either like,
he was caught in the act and he was about to die, or he's being strangled.
I mean, there's what
like, they say the cause of death was
asphyxiation. That he hung himself.
Right. That's like
now,
the typical way to kill himself.
If he was legitimately suicidal, it's just as common practice amongst
convicts,
guards to just go, no, you're not allowed to kill yourself, but I am just going to happen to leave my boots here with my shoestrings still in them, so don't you go kill yourself. So they could have made it so he could kill himself, too.
And, again, one thing that I didn't think about initially is how prison has this, like, weird morality hierarchy thing where pedophiles, they're like frowned upon a lot.
No,
so,
you're
like,
the first to
I didn't even
think
think about that. But now that I think about it, yeah, like that's a thing in prison where, you know, if a pedophile comes through, like your days are numbered.
So do you think maybe it's just as likely that other inmates killed him?
Yeah, I think so.
They allowed him to just be murdered by him.
But then that would beg the question, like, why are all of these circumstances like happening around the time he supposedly killed himself? It's just like,
I mean,
then he's not like a regular pedophile. He's not your run of the mill pedophile
Bill
or child
who needs
molester.
To knock on every door saying, "Hi, I'm not allowed to go 100 feet to a kid's playground."
That's not. He's not that guy. Clearly, he owned a fucking.
He owned the world,
right? So, like, I feel like, I don't know, like all the circumstances surrounding his death. Like, why are they having guards changed? Why are they taking him off a suicide watch? Like, why is all of this stuff happening? And we don't have an explanation for it.
Right.
And then he just suddenly kills himself. I just don't. I don't buy it. Honestly.
Well, the biggest one is. They have video of the cell itself.
Right.
They just don't have video of inside the bathroom because you're just legally not allowed.
And is that where he was found?
Well, the video of his cell has gone missing.
Hold on. So there's a bathroom in this cell?
Yes.
Is that like commonplace?
Well, no. It's just so.
Is it just like a area?
It's just it's another room out of the view because they're allowed their privacy when they're This isn't a regular cell.
Right.
But you got to remember, what we don't have, he died in the main cell where there is a camera.
And there's no
and
footage.
It malfunctioned. We lost the video. That doesn't happen.
It doesn't make sense.
The one day you need the video, you happen to not have it. That's just,
And do they have, like, footage of other days?
Oh, yeah. It's just, literally just that time period.
Yeah,
it's just it malfunctioned.
I'm not buying it.
Especially when...
Definitely a murder. I mean...
Definitely a murder.
Definitely.
Who did it? Killary?
The name is fitting. The name is definitely fitting. It could have been anybody.
Could have been anybody. You're literally sitting next to the Epstein killer, and you didn't even know it. I'm just sipping on milkshake.
No, I believe it, Alex.
I believe it. I see.
But if you came out and said it, you'd be a fucking hero. A hero.
Yeah. Oh, but that's the other thing we were talking about is I had this theory that nobody's going to turn themselves... Or the theory is everybody wants to say, why would this guy not kill himself? Right? Like, it seems just as likely that he would kill himself because he was so powerful.
Uh-huh.
He literally lost everything. His rapport, just everything was destroyed. Mm-hmm. Why wouldn't he kill himself? And I made the argument as we were talking that I think that he wouldn't kill himself because there's bigger fish to fry, right? He was able to get away with what he was able to get away with because of the powerful people he had that he was able to implicate and get twisted up in all of this. So I want to counter my other point of saying, well, he wouldn't kill himself because life wasn't going to be that bad for him. Like,
exactly.
Yes,
and he had the resources. It's not like he's going to have, a jaded public defender.
You're right.
As his attorney. This guy was going to hire like a team of lawyers that was almost certainly going to, like, get him off. If not, in this day and age, it's a little bit different, I think. But they were definitely going to, like, advocate for this guy zealously.
Huh. I definitely expected it to be more. What do you think his net worth is? It's $1 billion.
I thought it would be less. I didn't think it was that.
Really?
Well, did they say that he was a billionaire? I think they did say that.
Yes. I thought it would have been more than that.
What did he do?
Dude, no one knows what he did. Nobody knows. Nobody knows how he got this.
Probably a fucking sex trafficking guru.
Or it's all blackmail.
Like,
like
clearly.
Just
Has
collecting.
Like,
who
all
gets
of these,
free money?
These world leaders and stuff that came to his island.
Or I was telling you how Bill Clinton was on his plane, the lolly trolley or whatever. 27 times.
Yeah, what are you doing there?
Hey, have you?
Not
Me
exactly
and you
Air
are
Force
getting
One.
lunch all the time. We've been living on top of each other for 2 years. Have you ever been in my car 27 times?
I don't think so.
Like,
no, absolutely not. Especially when I have fucking Air Force One.
Yes.
sitting right outside my door. I don't know. This seems fishy.
Too much of it
honest.
seems fishy. And, like we were watching, I think Steven Crowder, just the biggest takeaway from this is that we are talking, all of these debatable conspiracy facts aside, there's one thing that's irrefutable, common knowledge, everybody knows. This dude had a pedophile island.
Yeah.
That should be the biggest takeaway.
Yeah.
What's more likely, that the guy with the pedophile island killed himself because, oh, shucks, the world knows about it, even though the world was already at my island?
Exactly.
Or was he taken out? I mean, it's...
I think he was taken out. It was way too much at stake.
That's 100%.
Way too much.
That's 100%.
And that's the bottom line.
Well, I think we took this through a bunch of different avenues, but I appreciate you coming on here, Ashley.
No problem. I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, I look forward to doing this again.
Yep.
Now that we're back in the groove in the blank canvas of Harrisburg, I got to figure out how I'm going to redesign this to make it more of a studio. This all white weirdness is just not fitting.
Add some color.
Yeah, sure. I appreciate. Thank you again. Seriously.
No problem.
And cheers to our last year of law school.
Yes.
Academia is almost over.
Almost out and contributing to the very fucked up system we just talked about.
But damn it, we're putting our foot down. You are not looking at two pawns.
Mm-hmm.
We the rook, or I don't even know how the rook
queen.
works. Well, yeah.
And the king.
She's the king, I'm the queen.
Hey.
We just rock our modern life to this shit right here.
Just Caitlyn Jenner.
Yo, on that note, please, I beg of you, like, share, subscribe if you did enjoy it. I thrive on you guys, and I really appreciate it. So please, thank you, Ashley, again. I look forward to getting you on this again.
No problem. Thank you guys for listening.
Yes. Peace.